Alright everyone, how you doing? Welcome to AFC Game by Game, and in this video I thought I would do something a little bit different and delve into the concept and really break the borders of reality by looking into Arsenal's FIFA 16 player ratings. And I say break the borders of reality because we all know what EA are like, especially with FIFA, this kind of stuff. Some of these ratings that I've looked through the game are absolutely atrocious. I've seen that Adebayor was actually rated at a 79, and some of these Arsenal ratings are just so questionable at times. By no means do I think these truly reflect the actual ability of some of our players, but for the purposes of debate and opinion, I thought I'd take a look at it, and it does add a bit of variety to my channel. If you have been a long-term subscriber of mine, you will know that a few years back I did actually do a little bit of FIFA. Didn't really keep it consistent. And of course, if FIFA isn't your thing, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, so if you're not interested, then don't hesitate to click off the video and check out some of my other content. But without further ado, let's get into the player ratings. I'm going to read them as I see them on screen, so in no particular order really, going from goalkeeper up to the forwards. And we'll start off with David Ospina, who has got a rating of 78, and he's gone up one from in FIFA 15, where he was actually rated at a 77. He's a non-rare card in Ultimate Team, and if that actually matters or means anything, which it doesn't really. I mean, Ospina getting a 78 rated, I think it's decent. It's not really what I would have expected. I'd have expected him to be around the 79, 80 mark, and I would have expected him to be a rare card, but like I say, that doesn't really count for anything. He had a decent season for us last campaign. I mean, there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders when he came in for Wojciech Szczesny, and some of his shot reflexes are absolutely superb at times. There are things he's guilty of in his game, things such as parrying the ball into dangerous situations, but nonetheless, he's a class keeper, and I'm a bit surprised that he's only been given a mere 78 rated card. Next up, our new recruit, Petr Cech, of course, 85 rated, rare gold card, 83 diving, 84 reflexes, which are exactly the same as David Ospina. So again, that argues my case of why Ospina hasn't been given a higher rating. Cech, of course, hasn't been downgraded, hasn't been upgraded, had a bit of a haphazard season with Chelsea where he didn't get much playing time, but whenever he did play, put in world-class performances, kept a lot of clean sheets, had a decent start to his Arsenal career after a very shaky game against West Ham, but certainly redeemed himself in the 0-0 draw against Liverpool. I have no doubt he's going to be a world-class keeper, certainly warrants that 85 rating. And moving on to the defence, our first silver card of the batch, it is Callum Chambers, who's been given a 72 rating. And he's been given a right-back card as opposed to a centre-back card, which is my first surprise. And I'm a bit surprised that he's been given such an upgrade, really, from what he was rated in FIFA 15. He had an okay season with Arsenal. Given his age, I mean, there's a load of transition for him to do. I mean, he's still evolving into that centre-back role, but there is a lot of work for him to do. And again, I bring into question why. I mean, do EA actually watch games at times? Because they should know that predominantly he plays games at centre-half rather than right-back, so I'm not too sure why he's been given a right-back card. Just focusing on that for a second. But, yeah, like I say, he had an okay season with Arsenal, but didn't really set the world alight, and he had some rather really shaky games. Wasn't convincing in that game against Liverpool whatsoever. But like I say, there's a lot of development for him to be going on with. But, I mean, if he's an avid FIFA player, then he'll certainly be given a confidence boost by that 72 rating. And the next one, the next silver card we've got, one of few, Hector Bellerin, 74 rated, incredibly disappointing rating. And bringing EA into question once again, I do find that no matter what a player's ability, whatever their age is, if they're young, then they're going to be given a rating that, you know, doesn't really reflect their true potential and ability. And I certainly feel that that's been represented with Bellerin here. An absolutely amazing season, and like I say, with Callum Chambers, in a complete contrast, Hector Bellerin, his counterpart, did completely set the world alight. He was absolute class. He's got a call up to the Spain national team, really good going forward, really good defensively, 74 rated overall. I mean, that's lower than quite a few players that are nowhere near on the same level as him. I mean, he's been rated 6 lower than Mathieu Debuchy, who he's keeping out of the side, so that's a bit of an odd one. I am really surprised by that Bellerin rating. I'd have given him more of a... I'd have given him at least a 77 or at least a 78. That's what I feel he warrants, and I am a bit disappointed by that rating. Moving on to our next defender, it is Gabriel Paulista. 78 rating, which is a big upgrade from what he had in FIFA 15. Can't quite remember what it was, but this is a big upgrade for him, I do know that. He does deserve the upgrade. He hasn't had much playing time for Arsenal as of yet, but he has played in 2 games this season against Liverpool and against Newcastle. In both games, he was absolutely fantastic, and I do believe that if he continues with his progression, if he does get more time in the Arsenal setup, he can easily get into the 80s mark. The first surprise package of the bunch is, of course, Kieran Gibbs, who's been given an upgrade to an 80 rated card, and if it was this time last year, I would have definitely said Gibbs deserves this upgrade. But he hasn't really played much last season. It's a bit ironic that in his first injury-free campaign, he's actually not got much playing time, simply because Monreal is keeping him out of side. Of course, the left-back spot is a great great position for Arsenal. Got 2 class fullbacks. Gibbs, in my opinion, could be making a push for the national team, but without regular playing time, he's not really going to be able to get those opportunities. I do hope that at some point over the course of the season he does kind of best Monreal. I really do like Gibbs, and it's good to have an English player within the side who's making a push for the first team and the England first team. And then we move on to another upgraded player, who is of course Gibbs' counterpart, Nacho Monreal, who's been given an upgrade from 77 to 80, had an amazing season last campaign, and he went from one of my least favourite players to quite comfortably one of my favourite players. I really do hope he keeps it up. He's one of our more consistent players now, got that goal at Old Trafford last season. Couldn't be happier for Monreal. Not much more needs to be said on him, but I do really hope that he keeps on his consistency, because he's been fantastic. Next up at right back, we have Matteo Guendouzi, who's also been given an 80 rated. Barely played for us last season, was kept out of the team by Hector Bellerin. A season to forget for Debussy, and it's hard to judge given that he was injured for so long. So 80 rated, not much more to say on him, and probably fair enough in that respect. Next up, we've got Laurent Koscielny, who's rightly been given an upgrade to an 83. Now, whether the rating is actually reflective of his true ability is what I question here. I'd have given him at least an 84, maybe even an 85. He's one of the best centre-halves in the league, in my opinion, and definitely the best centre-half for Arsenal. So 83, I'm slightly disappointed, but on the other hand, I am glad that EA have recognised that he's been doing well for Arsenal and have rightly given him an upgrade. Per Mertesacker alongside him also been given an 83 rated card, and after a rather haphazard season, should we say, had some excellent performances, but also had some performances where he was a bit of a liability. I mean, games where he was striving up to the other end of the pitch and getting into positions which he shouldn't even be considering going near. So 83 rated, I'm a bit surprised he's kept that rated. He's getting that little bit older now. I would have maybe expected him to drop down to an 82, maybe even an 81, but nonetheless, I'm happy that he's kept that 83 rated card. Moving on to the midfield, starting it off with Mathieu Flamini, who's been given it a 76. Is this guy still even meant to be at the club, is what I'm going to say to this one. But 76, I think that's exactly the same as what he had last season. Barely played for us last campaign, apart from the start of the season where he was just really identifying why we need to bring in a defensive midfielder. I can think of one good performance that he had, and ironically, that was at Chelsea away, where he actually had a really good game and actually looked a lot better than Nemanja Matic in that game, although we did go on to lose the game 2-0, so the less said about that, the better, and that's the Matthew Flamini effect for you. Moving on to our right midfield, Joel Campbell, another player that I wonder, is he still meant to be at the club? Don't get me wrong, I am pleased that Campbell's still within this Arsenal team, but whether he'll get near the team is another thing. I personally don't think he's going to get a chance in the starting 11. I mean, we've got a game coming up against Spurs in the League Cup, which, you know, would you want him to play in? I'd like us to go all out for that game. And the only real competitions I see him playing in are the League Cup, once we've got past Spurs, and then the games in the FA Cup, should I say, which I don't know if he'll still be around in January, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But 76 rated, pretty much the same as what he had last season. Yeah, fair enough. And the central defensive midfield, yet again, Francis Coquelin, given him 78 rated. Significant upgrade for Coquelin, one that he thoroughly deserves. Over the moon for him to get such a highly rated card, and I do believe if he keeps up with this consistency, then he'll be striving into the 80s without a shadow of a doubt. Let's not forget that he's only been performing like this for, what is it, 8 months now? 8 months, almost 9 months. So, I mean, if he continues to put in these kind of performances for the next 9 months or whatever, then he'll definitely be going into the mid-80s. I do firmly believe that. One of Arsenal's more consistent performances this season. And moving again onto the right midfield, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain been given a 79 rated card. Yeah, again, a player that didn't play a lot for us last season. I do want him to do well, and I do believe that if he continues to put in the performances that he has done already this season, like he did against Chelsea in the Community Shield, a real workhorse within the team, then he can quite easily go into the mid-80s. It's just a case of him remaining injury-free and fulfilling the potential I expected of him. He's starting to become a predominant figure in the England national team. He started both of England's qualifying games, so I do expect him to really be nailing down the starting spot at Arsenal, and he could be a massive player for us this season. Moving on to the central attacking midfield, Tomas Rosicky been given an 80 rated card. Played a lot for us during the December time, and I thought he was really great in the time that he did. Got the goal against QPR, scored the goal against Brighton. I remember that goal against Brighton like it was yesterday. That was an absolute class goal. Seeing that live was something I'm never going to forget. And Rosicky, personal favourite player of mine. It's a shame about his surgery and that he's going to be out until like Christmas, New Year time. I do hope he gets some playing time for Arsenal this season. He's about 35 years old, but he plays like he's about 19. So I do still hope that he's got something to offer Arsenal. I do hope he sticks around for a few more years before considering retirement. So 80 rated, it is of course Tomas Rosicky. And again, another surprise package. Central midfield, Mikel Arteta been given an upgrade from, 80 to 81. And again, why? He didn't play at all for us last season. I mean, there are a couple of games that he played in at the start. He played against Dortmund away. He got the goal in that horrible 3-3 draw with Anderlecht from the penalty spot. But apart from that, barely played for us. He's, of course, our captain. Let's not forget that. Maybe EA have taken that into consideration. But, I mean, I was fully expecting him to go down to a 77 or a 76 or something. So, for him to get an upgrade is certainly something that surprises me. The next central midfield player is Jack Wilshere, 81 rated. Non-rare. What can you say about Wilshere? I mean, he had a few cameo appearances for Arsenal towards the back end of last season. Was looking good in the England national team. Got a couple of good goals against the likes of, I think it was Estonia. And he could be a pivotal figure in the Arsenal team. I've said the exact same about Chamberlain, another English player that could have a huge impact on Arsenal's season. He's got drive, he's got passion, he's got determination. All the attributes to be both an Arsenal and an England captain. But unfortunately, the season for him has started in completely the wrong way, and he's already picked up an injury. I don't know how long he'll be out for. It is a big shame for Wilshere, and I just hope that he comes back soon and lives up to the expectations of him. On the right midfield, it's another winger. It is, of course, Theo Walcott, 81 rated. And, yeah, I mean, he had a lot of time on the bench last season. Finished the season impressively, getting the goals against West Brom. The hat-trick, that was a great game for him, but nonetheless a game that didn't really mean anything at the time. And then he scored the winning, well, not the winning, but one of the important goals in the FA Cup final. So it was a decent end to the season for Walcott. And I was hoping that he'd start this season really picking up where he left off. He hasn't really done that. He's been a bit flat this season. I do hope that he stays on the right-hand side. EA have got him down as a right midfielder. They know where he should be. One of the very few things that EA actually are logical about. So I do hope that he does predominantly play on the flank for Arsenal this season. Another central midfielder, Aaron Ramsey, rated at 82, been downgraded from, I think he was an 83 last season. So that is a bit of a, not a surprise by any means. He was disappointing last season. Let's not beat around the bush. He was a letdown. He didn't live up to the season that he had before in the 2013-14 campaign. And I was very disappointed by some of his performances. Again, a player that started the season a bit haphazardly, similarly to Walcott. He hasn't really found his position yet. I don't think it helps when Wenger is constantly playing him on the right-hand side. I do think he needs to form a partnership with Coquelin in the middle of the park, which does mean sacrificing Santi Cazorla. But for the best of Ramsey and possibly for the best of Arsenal, I think that's something we have to consider. And that brings me on to our next player in central attacking midfield. One of our highly rated players, actually, Santi Cazorla, 85 rated. He's done really well to get this rating. I do believe that's a small upgrade on his behalf, one that he thoroughly deserved. And it does annoy me that they put him down as a central attacking midfield card because he did play in a box-to-box midfield role last season, not in the hole, similarly to what Ozil plays in. Yeah, I mean, Cazorla had a really good season for us, and I do hope that he continues that this season. Like I say, him and Ramsey really rivaling it out for the same spot. It's just a case of which player has the better attributes and what players better suited to certain situations that we're going to come up against. I don't think Cazorla will lose his place in the team just yet. He's one of our more valuable players. Hasn't started the season greatly. He's been giving the ball away a lot. I do hope he eradicates that from his game, but the little Spaniard, overall 85 rated. And that brings me on to our highest rated player of the bunch, Mesut Ozil, 87 rated. And this does come as a bit of a surprise to me that he's been given an upgrade from the 86 he was last season. Let's not forget how valuable he is to the team, that he's a subtle player. A lot of his game goes underappreciated, yada, 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 yada. But did he deserve an upgrade on what he did for us last season? I don't know. I mean, he was an 87 rated player before he came to the club. I mean, wouldn't it make sense just to not downgrade him if you're going to keep him at an 87? Then I don't think people would bring this one into question. But I do think 87, it's good to see him getting some recognition. I mean, at least someone appreciates him, whether that be EA or whether it be me. I am pleased for Ozil, and I do hope that he's someone that I'll enjoy playing with in this game. And that moves me on to the forwards. First and foremost, Danny Welbeck, 79 rated. Yeah, he's got the injury, and I do see him being out for a significant part of the season. I can see us getting to Christmas time, and he has a setback, so I'm not pinning too many hopes on Danny Welbeck this season, and I doubt he'll be able to have a huge impact on our campaign unless he comes back a little bit earlier than expected and pushes us on into a title-winning team, which hopefully he can. I do hope he gets over this injury, but to see him be out for so long, it will have been about 10 months or whatever that he'll have been out for when he does eventually come back. Could even be longer. So I am really disappointed for Welbeck, but he's got an upgrade, I think, from a 78 to a 79. Very good workhorse, very good engine. Works really hard for the team. Not the best goal scorer by any means, but yeah, I'm pleased for Danny Welbeck on that respect. Moving on to Olivier Giroud, who's been given a quite big upgrade to an 82. Yeah, it's what can you say about Giroud? I mean, a lot of people don't really want him to be Arsenal's first choice striker, but going into this season, we haven't really got a choice because we've got no other options up there. Giroud, I think he was decent for us last season, and given that he's got so many goals, he's got a goal like almost every other game on a 10 million quid return. It's not bad at all. And I do hate to keep bringing up that he's only worth 10 million, but he is a 10 million pound player, and it's wrong of us to expect any more than that. I do hope he has another good season with Arsenal. Again, similarly to so many Arsenal players, it started off inconsistently. Got a world-class goal against Crystal Palace, but was frustrating in the game against West Ham, was frustrating in the game in the time that he was on the pitch against Newcastle. Should have buried a chance that he got in that game. I do think he warrants his 82 rating, but he's got to live up to it. And finally, we move on to Alexis Sanchez, 86 rated left winger. And I think, you know, I've got to bring into question here, if Ozil was going to be rated 87 and given an upgrade, then although Sanchez has been given an upgrade, I do think he should be on to something like an 88 because for me, he was head and shoulders our best player last season, had the biggest impact in the squad, carried us through games at times. I remember that game against Sunderland away where he practically did all the work himself. That was a really drab game, and he's a massive player for Arsenal, and hopefully it will be another huge season for him, and hopefully he can get more goals and more assists. And I am a little bit disappointed with that rating, but nonetheless, in my opinion, and I'm sure in the opinion of others, he is still the best player at Arsenal Football Club, and that's not to disrespect Mesut Ozil in any way. But, I mean, we're just lucky that we're in a position where we've got a squad which is laden with so many world-class players at this moment in time. Well, I say world-class, we've got Cech, we've got Koscielny, we've got Ozil, we've got Sanchez, and you could also maybe even label Santi Cazorla world-class, and a lot of potential for world-class ability within the team. But, sorry this video has been a little bit long. There are a lot of players within the Arsenal team, which, if anything, is a compliment to our squad. Whether some of them want to be there or not, I'm looking at Joel Campbell and I'm looking at Flamini. We've still got a very healthy squad, a very nourished team, and I do hope that this team can go on to do things this season. Like I said at the start of the video, I don't believe these ratings reflect the true ability that these players possess, and they do really flicker with the imagination, and they do persevere on the borders of reality at times. But anyway, guys, I know that some of you don't like FIFA, so I can understand if you didn't really want to watch this video. But if you do want to see more FIFA on my channel, I'm not going to predominantly make it FIFA. I never had that vision in mind. But if you wanted to see something like maybe one FIFA video a week, I have considered investing in a game capture, like an Elgato or something, and maybe doing a little feature every now and then. So if that is something that interests you, do hit me up in the comments box below. Let me know what your thoughts on that are. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, it was just my opinion. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these ratings in the comments box below. Like the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to AFC Game by Game, and thank you for watching.